And just like that, we're live. So, hey, everybody, welcome to this live stream. Today's topic is going to be, RPA, which stands for Robotic Process Automation. And we've got the usual culprits. We've got Neil. Hi, Neil. Randall.
Hi, everyone.
There you go. Namaste. There you go. And so we're going to be, we have our guest is actually missing in action. They should be joining us anytime. They're trying to log in. So while Eddie O'Brien is getting up to speed and getting on, we'll start. So today's topic was something that was birthed from the entire digital transformation of business. Yeah. It is a big word. Everybody's got their own definition of what it is. Of course, we will ask Eddie about what the real definition is. But before now, and when he joins, the one thing we've seen is that, of course, digital transformation of business has accelerated over the pandemic. And it is every business is now in it. They're living in a digital first world right now. And there are lots of tools out there that people are using to transform companies digitally. You know, e-commerce is one way they're doing it. There's lots of other tools that Microsoft is offering. So there's a lot of tools you can get on to a digital transformation, journey. But the fundamental tool platform in there is an RPA, which stands for Robotic Automate Processing. And basically, Robotic Process Automation. And basically what that does, it's a kind of a no-code, low-code solution that allows you to automate any process within your employees or with your actual customers. So this is sort of where, that platform comes in. And today we're going to be talking about that and how MSPs can get involved in that whole process. But get your initial thoughts, Neil or Randall. What do you want to add to the intro while we wait for Eddie to come on?
Well, what I'd say, Julian, is it's kind of like, I think what we'll cover in the session is kind of what you think RPA is and what it really is. Because I think, again, sometimes the perception gap between what we really mean by these terms confuses the audience. I would just like to focus on the point of view of digital transformation. It applies to us here directly. The fact that we're doing this live stream, it applies to the evolution of the Channel Partnership Alliance and the creating of the virtual Channel Partnership Alliance platform. That is a level of RPA as well. So, it's kind of like, that's kind of my starting point, is that it's a term which is misunderstood. We shouldn't be afraid of it. It's more empowering than it is kind of like going to mean no one has any jobs left. So that's kind of my starting point. Randall, how about you? And then once we've said our ignorance, Eddie.
Now, welcome, Eddie O'Brien. How are you?
Hi, Julian. How's it going? Sorry for being a couple of minutes late.
No worries. We sort of started the whole intro for you, and glad you could make us. So I'll just introduce you as I've done for everyone. We've got Neil at the top. He's going to be asking some questions with me. We have Randall to the left or to the right of you, I believe, myself, and Eddie O'Brien. He's the CEO of and the Chief Partner Officer, which is really awesome. The CEO and the Chief Partner Officer, love it, and of a company called UiPath, which is the number one.
Just to be correct, I am not the CEO of UiPath, but I am the Global Channel Chief.
Oh, well. Let me back it up then. I guess my information
we have a co-CEO, one that was announced just yesterday. So we're super excited about that. We have Daniel Dines, who's the original co-founder. And then we have Rob Enslin, who just joined us from GCP. So we're super excited about that.
Well, my wires got crossed there, so I apologize. So Chief Partner Officer.
No problem. I love the promotion, though. Thank you.
Well, maybe I can help you get that promotion, but the others may not like that. So yeah, and we're going to talk about robotic process automation today. So let's kick this off, Randall. You want to jump in, Randall, since Neil jumped in? What do you want to say?
Yeah, I think we should start with defining what it is, because people, they hear robotic and they think robots. They think like maybe a factory line at a car manufacturing plant. It's not that at all. So I think it helps to define what it is.
For sure. So look, what is RPA? RPA, it's a software technology. It's software bots. It's not hardware bots, but it emulates human action, humans' interactions with digital systems and software. It's basically all about automation. Just like people, software robots can do things like understand what's on a screen, complete the right keystrokes, navigate systems, identify and extract data, perform a wide range of defined actions. But they can also do it faster and more consistently. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Look, we started an RPA company originally, and Daniel founded that company, but it really has evolved into a full platform now. And we talk a lot about the fully automated enterprise. We envision a world where, these AI now powered organizations reimagine processes with automation at the center, enabling them to continuously transform and improve all their workflows and operations. What do I mean by a fully automated enterprise? This is a company that thinks automation first. It applies automation wherever it makes the most sense and can have the greatest impact. A fully automated enterprise finds the right balance between what software bots do and what humans do. So yeah, and I'll talk a lot more about it as we get into it. That's the initial intro.
Let's break it down a little bit. So first of all, give us an example of the size of this market. How big is RPA and where it's headed?
Yeah, Julian. And look, a lot of companies talk about total addressable market, and there's lots of theories out there, but I'll try to use research. So Forrester said the RPA market will reach 22 million by 2025. 22 billion, I'm sorry, by the year 2025. And that includes an RPA software market today worth around 6 billion, 6.5 billion. Based on our analysis, then on top of that, the fully automated enterprise, we estimate that market to be about 60 billion. So yeah, just massive opportunity for partners, for customers, and we're very excited about it. We're really
so now we've got a definition of RPA, and we've got the size of the market, right? Let's break it down. Go ahead.
I have a quote that I think kind of applies. I really liked it because it kind of helped get our head around what this does. It says that automation is cost cutting by tightening the corners and not cutting them. So really, it's about thinking about how to do things faster, but not trying to take processes out of the equation. You're keeping all the processes in. You're just making it work much faster.
I think, Randall, yeah, I was going to talk later on a little bit more about that, but speed and accuracy are two very important elements in the ROI that we can produce with automation. So you're right on the two of those things. Sorry, Julian, you were going to say?
Well, yeah. I just wanted to kind of dig in a little bit more. So when we look at RPA and we're implementing a platform, so let's say we've got a platform, like your platform, for example, and now we want to go down the path of helping a company to automate a whole bunch of things. What have I got to do? What does that journey looks like for me? And I'm saying me as an MSP, for example.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let me talk about it in terms of a channel partner for sure. I think there's kind of four elements to it. One is, making sure that digital transformation is an imperative for your customer set. So I think, working with your customers to make sure that that's a strategic imperative is really step one. Automation is one of, if not the most important component of that digital transformation for any enterprise. And channel partners can help customers accelerate that vision then and achieve that digital transformation. I think a second area where channel partners can really excel is around thought leadership. Customers see that the partner is aware of emerging technologies, is willing to approach problems with a different point of view. We have 700 tech alliances today, of technology companies that have built a connector into our product, or we've built one into theirs, or there's a two-way connector. And channel partners have this view of the market and can really help their customers understand that technology landscape, and how all of the stack can play together. And I think that's something I'm always asking channel partners to really lean in on. Take this automation as part of the solution to making all of that work better together. That's especially relevant in our case, as we've evolved now to a platform and not just core RPA. And I think channel partners can differentiate themselves by providing that service to end customers. And then it's about building critical mass, right? Complex solutions are solved with a combination of all these different technologies, not just UiPath, but the whole stack. Very rarely is it one kind of single solution able to provide everything for a customer, right? By including RPA in the solution, we can get these different technologies to work better together, and it can be a catalyst for those solutions to deliver then critical mass of an automation solution inside an enterprise and spread it to many, many users. I also think, there's an opportunity to connect incongruent applications. And you see a lot of product guys talk a lot about this, where customers tend to have significant technology debt, right, when it comes to their enterprise application stack. A lot of unused licenses, a lot of shelfware. Most, if not all, these applications do not speak to each other natively. And I think, RPA and our platform can help with that challenge too. So channel partners can lean in really, but I think first digital transformation, getting in front of that, and I'll talk later on about use cases and how to do that, etc. But
yeah, and one of the things too that to be clear to the MSPs, it's definitely you have to build out an ecosystem of partners to tackle this beast of digital transformation. There is no one solution, and digital transformation is not just with your customers or the customers of their customers, but it's also internally, right? It's to your employees as well, and how they're moving around and automating those processes and removing redundancy and taking things out that's mundane tasks, right? That's literally driving people into insanity today, right? That you need to kind of make a better way. Talk a bit about how, I know RPA does a lot of things, but look at how automation helps in just the human sanity, for example. Let's talk about that, since mental health is a big thing these days.
Well, actually, Daniel in the vision of the company, talks a lot about emulating human achievement. And he talks a lot about taking the mundane out of everyday life and creating that space for workers like all of us to just be more creative and have more time in the day to enjoy ourselves in the workplace creatively versus doing the mundane tasks. So automation definitely does that. It has the potential really to unlock the real value of your business. When we talk about ROI, we can finally put some real numbers to that value. Sorry, guys. We were just talking about on one of our sales forecast calls this morning on the importance of talking about that with decision makers inside of customers. And I think channel partners can definitely lead with this in terms of what is the dollar saving. And the dollar saving is often then attached to hours saved by removing these mundane tasks, as you call them, Julian. And that's real saving for companies and how they can leverage it. And there's also then real saving associated with speed, like Randall mentioned, and then accuracy on top of that. So I think, hours saved, speed, and accuracy are three of the three components.
And of course, the fourth is
lost in ROI, just to finish, is the acceleration of projects. Projects can move much faster across an enterprise by leveraging RPA. And I think that's another one. And I'll give some examples later on. We do have some studies that I had, to talk about also if people are interested. Forrester have a lot of study in terms of the ROI, and specific to us at UiPath actually, where they've estimated we can drive 97% of the ROI over 3 years, which I think is a phenomenal statistic.
We'll dig into the ROI later on. What I wanted to say is like one of the things to automate is every business is redefining itself. There's some studies that I've heard quoted where CEOs are looking over the next 3 to 5 years, and they're saying like 76% of them will not even recognize their business models the way it is today. And I think a lot of that has to do with the transformation of their business in this digital first economy we're living in. But to wrap up the point about burnout, these days there's the great resignation happening. There's lots of talk about people not liking their jobs as much. And I think when you get down to it, the question is what you're doing in your job has a lot to do with it, and how the company obviously is treating you and all these other components. But I think one of the things that ROI factors they should put in there is how do you help your employees to do a better job, right? And remove those mundane, boring tasks that's maybe driving them insane and burning them out. But enough said on that topic. It's just something that I think people do need to be aware of. And then let's dig in a little bit deeper into the journey. So now we've got this RPA. We understand the value. There's some good ROI you're going to get out of it. There is a process. How does an MSP spin this up? What can they expect? How do they build an ecosystem of partners, for example, right? How do they approach their customers? Let's say you were the MSP, right? And you went.
What's the low-hanging fruit? What's the first thing you can solve for a partner to get them, for your client, to get them to understand the power if they kind of go all in?
Step one.
Yeah, no, two great questions. Let me just pick up a little bit on the journey element, and then I'll talk about, the low-hanging fruit. And that has a kind of double-edged sword to it. But on the journey side, look, I talked about earlier about the fully automated enterprise. And we define this in 4 key pillars. And I think partners can take this on board at scale. I talked about it at our Forward event last year in Vegas. We talk about it again this year. But it's really about assigning automatable work to robots. So identifying every single process in the company that can be automated and then assigning that to a software robot. Also, and this I think will resonate with a lot of people and make a lot of sense, it's about having a robot for every person. So as a channel partner going into your customers, being able to size the opportunity based on a bot for every single person gives you an element of just how big the opportunity is inside of the enterprise. And I know everyone thought, Bill G was crazy, and I had 15 years at Microsoft in a prior life. We used to talk about this a lot when he talked about, a PC in every home and every desk. But, it ended up being a realistic vision. And we're saying exactly the same thing about a robot for every person, a digital assistant, if you like. And then it's about democratizing development, right? Making sure that those power users inside of an enterprise have the tools available to them to develop automation at scale. And that's all about setting up a center of excellence, training people. And there's just so much opportunity for partners to enable themselves, to enable customers to take on this automation step inside or under the banner, if you like, of digital transformation. It's a huge opportunity for partners. And then the great thing about this, of course, is, finish probably isn't the right word, but I'll use it. It finishes with AI. So now you have all of the AI capabilities that are coming into the market, available to customers today, and you can layer that on top of your RPA to understand the ROI, measure your automations. We provide a lot of the AI ourselves. You have your own tools too, a lot of customers will. But at least partners will be able to say, okay, and now I can tell you and manage for you, how well your automations are performing. So I think that's a little bit about the journey and the fully automated enterprise. Low-hanging fruit. Look, I would say a lot of channel partners are subject matter experts in specific domains. They know more about a particular domain than anybody else, and they've built a business around that. It could be finance, enterprise apps, even digital transformation itself is on that list. And their current consulting and delivery practice is probably built around the ability to provide value to customers as part of that domain. When we look at our partners' practice holistically beyond automation, we see immediate opportunities then to attach RPA to their current customer solutions, thereby increasing the total value proposition to their customers. And I think that's a good start. I said that low-hanging fruit was a kind of double-edged sword, but whilst focusing on low-hanging fruit, and you can get started easily and quickly, you have to keep in mind that less than 5% of the total value really lies in low-hanging fruit. You really want to get on board, I think, with digital transformation and think about accelerated projects, major cost savings, creating greater resilience for customers, higher accuracy, improved compliance, Randall, I should have mentioned that earlier, boosting productivity, more value from the personnel, happier employees, like you said, Julian. Like there's a ton of advantages there, but I think with the only thing, and maybe you meant this too at the question, but with low-hanging fruit, there are one or two use cases that are well documented, and you could just start there, like invoice processing, for example. Faster, more accurate, better for compliance. Auditors love it. And that could be an easy use case as a low-hanging fruit to get on board with. And most customers have some form of invoice processing as an example. But I can talk more about some more use cases also.
Well, Neil, you want to jump in there before we didn't hear from you yet, but you're too quiet there, Neil.
I'm muted for a start, which probably doesn't help. I was just drinking it all in actually, because what I'm loving about the conversation this evening is it's something which proactive businesses have always been passionate about, which is greater efficiency. And what we're talking about here is actually, what I love about it is it empowers your best resource, which is your human workforce, to focus on where they add the most value, rather than just doing a task because A, we've always done it that way, and B, because we've not been able to think outside the box. I'll give you a really, really low-level example where where technology already streamlines. Is we've got a client who they are working international shipping, and if you've got an oil tanker or a gas tanker on the ocean, you can go phone up the country they're registered and go, could you just give me what they call a transcript? And it's basically a history of everything which has carried that vessel as long as it's been on the register. Before they work with us, they would get a little man to get in a car, and he'd drive to the off-site storage, collect a bit of paper, certify that as a copy, come back to the office, get another bit of paper, and run around for 2 or 3 days, and then produce the report. So the very first thing we did, which is not RPA, but it's where, it's the step before this, was we created an online process they could just audit direct through the website and have the response instantaneously. So it makes sense to me. The next logical thing is to go, actually, interact with the bot, find exactly what you want to have, and automate 10 times as many processes. Because as the world's got more and more competitive, we need our front-facing staff to be selling and representing the best bits of our business, not pushing bits of paper around anymore.
Yeah, fantastic, Neil. And look, I have three use cases that I can share, I think, in line with what you're saying, or in the kind of category of use case, if you like. One is with Thermo Fisher Scientific, where they cut invoice processing time by 70%, and they have 824,000 documents processed annually. So think about the poor individuals who are manually doing almost 1 million documents, and now the processing time is 70% faster. So now suddenly, these folks can, find way to enjoy their jobs and do more creative work. Another one is with Uber. So they coordinate their global operations through UiPath RPA. They have about 100 plus automations, and they've saved tens of millions of dollars annually. and they got 350% of the ROI in the first year. So Randall, you mentioned about low-hanging fruit. I mean, deployed properly, even at scale, which is why I kind of said, all of those elements of the automation is where the real opportunity is. And then Spotify expanded commitment to innovation and automation using UiPath. They have over 100 bots in production. But this one I love. They estimate 45,000 hours saved, and 24,000 hours of that they were able to release back into the enterprise as real productivity saving. And the other thing about RPA for channel partners, I think, and look, I've worked at a number of software companies in my past, but the ROI on automation is just super simple to explain. And how much software have we all been involved in that it's really kind of fuzzy? What is the ROI? And whether it's an ERP app or a CRM app or all the many apps. I mean, they're all amazing in many respects, but very often with software, ROI is kind of fuzzy to get your hands around, right? But with RPA, it's super simple. And, the overall platform now having, everything from task mining to document understanding all the way through to AI built around the core RPA, I think makes that more possible than ever. But they're just 3 examples I thought I'd share.
Great examples.
I also wanted to maybe address the possible obstacles, which is fear. A lot of people have fear of RPA. I know myself. A great example is McDonald's, right? You go into McDonald's and they have that big board and you just do it yourself. I know I'm talking to a robot, but I'll prefer that than to stand in line and talk to a person. But the person is still there if you need help. So we're seeing it more and more in everyday life. Are there things that we can tell our potential clients that will get away that fear of thinking that their job's going to be replaced or their employees are going to be scared?
Yeah. So I've heard this one before. I'll say a couple of things. Firstly, I don't see it. We just don't see it in the marketplace. We see a strong desire to embrace automation. We get very positive feedback, and we don't lose deals, so to speak, because of this fear, as you put it. But I completely understand it. I think the way I think about it is between attended and unattended robots. And between the front office and the back office, we're actually making that job of the human more successful, more even better, right? So, like, let's say you dial into a 1-800 number and you get a software robot dealing with you eventually. All it will really do, and some of those can, I know, in we don't do all the chatbot stuff, but in that world can drive a lot of people crazy. But the most efficient is it just identifies, who you need to talk to in the organization, and then what data that person needs in front of them to have an efficient conversation. So you don't have to be online waiting a long time for an individual to ask you all those questions and then call up the data, which might take a while to get. Whereas if those 2 things can be automated, then your interaction with that human being is far more efficient, time saved, probably more accurate, and a happier experience for the employee and the customer. So that's how I think about it, Randall, in those real life examples. I don't have factual data on the McDonald's one, but having been a regular user with 5 kids myself and knowing the board, I'm funny. I go straight to the counter, but now the person has time to see me. Some people are at the boards. They have time and they can get, some of the order for you straight away while they're waiting for other stuff to get done. So anyway. But,
and once you have the app, you can actually order it even before you get into McDonald's, right? So
in the parking lot.
You can do it in the parking lot.
Right on.
The fear of automation replacing humans has been around forever. We all hear about the industrial revolution, now the automation revolution, but there's this thing that people believe that there's too many humans in the world. And in reality, apparently, it's not really true. There's not enough humans doing this stuff. And I think if there was a litmus test or a test of this, it would be what we've encountered over the last couple of years, right? And the great resignation that's happened where people are really realizing, you know what? I don't really want to do that. I mean, I don't know about you guys, wherever you guys are where you're from in that area, but you can go down the streets in Toronto, you could see like all the restaurants saying, we're hiring, all the fast food joints, coffee shops, we're hiring. We just did an event a month ago, and the hiring expert actually drove from Ottawa to Quebec, and they counted 148 or something companies with a big sign that says we are hiring. So if we're replacing jobs, how can we have so many jobs available? And the reality is these companies need to provide a service to the customers. And quite honestly, if you go back to that McDonald's question again, right? Let's say you go to McDonald's and there's like 2 people in the cash, and there's 20 people lining up to get a burger. Are you going to do a U-turn and get out, or are you going to go automate, right? And these things are slowly creeping up in the grocery stores. We see it as well. So automation as a general term, businesses are adopting it because it improves productivity, efficiency, saves costs, ROI. I think the debate's over on that, if there's an ROI or not. The question becomes, how does the MSP community look at digital automation with RPA as a platform that they can bake around other things around, so they can build up a practice around digital transformation? Eddie, can you give us a kind of an example of how many moving parts they are? Like, can you actually help an MSP to say, look, you need the platform here, but you also need this and this and this and this? Is that how it works?
You mean to set up a practice?
Yeah, like you got to educate them, of course, how to do it and everything else. But let's say they require other partners to deliver a wider and deeper level of automation services. Are you able to help MSPs to figure out what they need and what they don't need?
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely can. Look, we sell a lot of licenses today to MSPs. The most prevalent ones are business process outsourcers who are, have taken whole functions from companies and from, Accenture operations at the very top all the way to, teleperformance in the front office space. For example, we have a whole myriad of BPOs who are MSP at scale, if you like. And then we have a whole bunch of smaller MSPs who are starting, I would say, to put their foot into the automation journey. I think it does require the partner to invest in having their technical resources, take the training. You have to be confident in this. And we have created really world-class training. I'm super impressed with it now. We have a thing called USN Academy, UiPath Services Network. And we have over 150 partners now and there's 5,400 in the ecosystem. So a lot of people don't go all the way to USN certified, for example, but 150 are USN certified now. And that is broken down into role types of individuals who would be creating the automation inside of your MSP. And they can take the full set of training there. And get really competent, and then that makes a huge difference. Now you're into automation at scale. You've got people who really understand the product. In our first quarter, we trained. Our results aren't public yet, but we trained, a significant number of practitioners globally. I'm very excited about the number. So people are signing up to take 40 to 80 hours of training. So, 2 weeks of training in a quarter in order to get competent because of the excitement of the category. So the training is really important. And then I think you have to develop the story and what vertical you want to focus on, whether it's healthcare, supply chain, insurance, etc. There's also potential investment partners to have to build up a different type of people, right, in your practice to support a bench. And we do help in these areas also. So not only do we make all the training available, Julian, we also do instructor-led training that you can do. And we can also have strategic conversation with partners on how to scale their bench so that they're not losing billable hours as their bench is scaling. And we're still keeping customers served. Look, it takes time to develop relationships with all our sellers, but it takes time, I think, for MSPs to develop a full automation practice. So very often we talk about just getting a few wins on the board, one customer at a time, all the stuff you guys would be used to, Randall, back to your point about low-hanging fruit. I think that's a better example of low-hanging fruit where there's one or two customers and you just win with them, get a couple of people trained, build a COE inside the customer, and try to scale from there. But yeah, look, we
I just want to add there. I think the first step really is taking the courses, right? Because yes, you can probably figure your way out and get a few wins, right? But what you really want to know is the whole scope, right? And to understand the depth and the width of what's involved in this, right? You do need to understand. I appreciate you bringing that to the attention of channel partners, because this is not just like plug and play, right? You do have to invest time and resources to spin up. And I mean, you're talking 80 hours, right? A couple of weeks worth of time for the potential upside, right? It seems like maybe a better choice than taking some university courses. But I will leave that to another day.
And I also think about how integrated you have to get into a company. You have to get to know their processes. And I mean, they'll never leave you once you're at level, because you're now a partner in their inner workings. And that's a big bonus for an MSP.
So right on, Randall.
Neil?
I think it also links in very clearly with the early part of that conversation about where do the jobs come from. And it's always been the case that when we get technological innovation, it creates new jobs. So it may displace an old workforce, but it creates new opportunities. And I think especially in the MSP, people have gone from being VARs in LARs to being MSPs. So the next stage is you can't just be a traditional MSP. You need to do something more. I'm sold. I'm just signing up here. I've opened it in the reader. I'm just in the UiPath Academy, and I'm signing up now. So there we are.
Neil, you're going to become a digital advisor in real time.
Well, one of the things very interesting is that a lot of the customers that we work with are in one of my enterprises. They're governments, and as we all know, with governments and public sector, they have all the problems you talk about. They're very expensive systems, ERPs, etc., from all different providers, a massive overhead of people, and they don't understand. And one of the things which we do is we go in as a part of change management. And this, for me, is this is another angle of change management that the smart MSP will adapt, because, like Randall says, if I'm integral to your business, if I truly am what we always talk about, which is when we work with companies, we become their partners. When you are that indispensable partner, then they're going to stick with you for decades. And as a business owner, that's what you want. You want that reliable income. And I'm a great believer that you build this relationship by delivering a quality service. So yeah, I'm all registered now.
Well, so there you go. One more client for you there, Eddie. One of the things I wanted to talk about as well was this no-code, low-code game. I mean, theoretically, you want to develop something in a company. You're thinking applications. You're thinking developers. You're thinking, hiring people, that type of thing to do that job. What is this low-code, no-code thing, and how does that apply in helping anyone who don't have that development skill to get into the game?
Yeah, look, great question, Julian. Look, as a company, we've evolved into an end-to-end automation platform. So we also have, what's called low-code, no-code, drag and drop capabilities with pre-built activities, right? So when you think of the platform end-to-end, and you think of, process discovery, task mining, applying automation, core RPA, building AI on top of that. And then you think having some low code, no code, quick automation, if you like, capability within that. We've built that now into the platform. So we think that is really important. It's actually really helps also from satisfying a use case by just taking this pre-built automation and solving a problem in real time, especially for companies who want to, just put their foot in the water and haven't thought through the whole digital transformation. I think the whole purpose was really to empower people to develop automations easily and quickly. And that's a great way to get going with that. I would say, look, with considerably basic programming skills, people can easily, learn and with some complex automation involve products like process mining, deploying AI, ML skills. They would need some level of skill. So you still need to be, in the automation game. It's not just a case of, pressing a button. But look, if the MSPs appropriately complete some of the training I've described, like the role-based development plans for each persona that is available, they can easily learn, or they can even leverage other implementation partners for implementation support as they're building their bench. So I would say for us, it's pre-built into the platform and it's important, but MSPs can definitely scale very quickly to that.
So Eddie, when you say building your bench, you meaning building their business practice?
Yeah.
Okay, I never heard it said that before as a bench. By the way, so that must be
I'm a soccer guy, and unfortunately, I spent too many years on the bench. So
I could see that. It's the bench issue. We know hockey, so we're always on the bench too. Hey, by the way, Neil, you and Eddie, can you guys know the accents and where you guys are originally from? From the accent?
I was trying to guess what part of England Neil is from, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, I am from the West Country.
The West, that's good or bad? Anyways, Eddie, which part are you from?
I'm from Southern Ireland, a city called Cork.
Cork, yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. So we don't fight with politics here, of course, right? But interesting, the accents. I heard there's 28 accents in the Britain alone, right? Dialects of English.
I would say Neil and I probably have a lot in common when it comes to rugby, soccer, and potentially cricket too. But
that's where it stops.
I think you mentioned you might have also drunk once upon a time from the poison pay packet of Microsoft, which I also did. So there you are, another bit of common ground.
Interesting stuff. Anyways, moving on. So one of the other things I wanted to cover was that as MSPs are moving through their journey and their own journey, one of the things that they all kind of understand today, the way to get better valuation of their business is through building some sort of a repeatable intellectual property, some IP. And of course, not just the recurring revenues and so on, but from a platform perspective, this allows a channel partner to build out processes for certain companies that they can fine tune and repeat and perfect. And therefore, they can leverage the same thing they've built, right, into other similar type businesses. Is that sort of like how it could work as well?
That's exactly how it works, Julian. I mean, that's 100%. I don't even need to add a whole lot, really. That's how you scale, basically. You take what you've built for some customers and you apply them to others, and you become experts in a particular vertical. I think healthcare is an amazing opportunity right now, with just a huge amount of use cases emerging. Some of the services to licenses ratios we see are quite high. So last year at Forward, I remember the slide on stage because I wanted to triple check it. We were saying 3 to 5x the license to software. I mean, the license to services revenue, meaning that partners can earn 5 times the value of the license in services through automation. And I would say, if anything, I'm hearing that number is potentially even higher now, especially when we get into the scale of use cases and the whole platform. In terms of getting going again, I did think of one other thing, which is, look, we have some individual products as part of the platform, if you like. We call them growth products. But things like document understanding and task mining and process discovery, you can deploy them alone inside a company to get them going as well, earlier stage in the process, without having to do full RPA, and that can help you while you're scaling your business too. But yeah, no, Julian, that's exactly it. Build a solution, and in fact, in some cases, we work with partners to jointly build solutions with them for key customers.
Yeah, those are really important points, and I hope MSPs are really going to digest those points, because one of the things that we always talk to MSPs in general is that you have to build repeatable processes that you might not even need to actually protect it legally, right? But you can actually at least have a process that you could repeat, rinse and repeat, and adjust for other companies, and that's where you get the scale and where you get the big revenues. And to your point, everyone talks about downstream revenue, we call it, right? So it's about 5x now, 3 to 5x. And that's critical. As a matter of fact, that is the only thing that probably matters, moving forward, is how much services you can add on, because these are very high margin services. So MSPs get this, and so they should be all over that process. When you look at the services, let's say you're an MSP as well, and you kind of have your customer base. What other additional services can you bake around this? It's not just RPA automation, right? It's cybersecurity protection. It's all the other things, correct?
Right. So like many partners will wrap RPA into an outcome-based subscription, basically, where the customer will pay for a solution service that includes RPA built into it. And RPA is functioning inside of that solution to improve accuracy and speed and drive all the benefits we talked about automation. And then the customer pays so much per invoice or so much per the solution that was provided. And we're seeing, MSPs scale very quickly in that arena. And customers like that, because customers feel like it's pay as you go. Versus having to, do a big upfront purchase. So we're seeing some of that. We've seen partners have a non-automated solution and an automated solution. So we've seen both. MSPs have been around for a long time without using RPA. So we've seen both, but we've seen the advantages of RPA being applied to those solutions now. And then, all the extra revenue capture by accelerating the time to value and increasing the scope of the project, obviously is a big attraction to the MSPs,
Randall, want to add something?
So far, so good. I like the fact that there's so many ways to bring this into a customer, but that definitely it's something we need to look into, because it's the way of the future. You cannot get there's no phone numbers you dial without an IVR. It's just become part of life. I think this is going to be the IVR of business. It's going to be an interactive way of dealing with businesses, and it's the future.
Well, look, Randall, I'll say one thing on top of that, which is there are a lot of opportunities. I think one of the challenges is identifying inside a customer who's the decision maker, who is this a priority for. It's a lot easier if you're selling some other, like if you're selling ERP or something like that, because it's clear who the decision maker is, the CIO/CFO. But in the world of automation, the CMO, the chief people officer, the CFO, the CIO, like everybody's a decision maker. And that's both an opportunity and a challenge. So we call it building the demand book inside of a customer. And that's where partners can really lean in and help. I have so many sales examples where, partners through their own relationships with customers are helping us build the demand book inside of a customer. And then, of course, being the partner, the implementation partner of choice for that particular customer.
When you look at you put on a bit of a crystal ball, right? We got about 10 minutes left. When you look at RPA, and the importance of RPA in the whole journey of digital transformation, right? How do you see the future of RPA developing? What does the future sort of look like as AI, accelerates that and so on? Could you put on your future hat and tell us what RPA could do for the future of business?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the channel guy's view. It's probably a great question for Ted Cummert, our EVP of engineering. And I do see a quick question I can just knock out there on my screen. It says, who does one contact for a look at the platform? Obviously, go to uipath.com, product solutions, but you can also email me, eddie.o'brien@uipath.com, and I'll navigate any questions you have for you. But look, the combination of RPA and AI, Julian, as you put it, it unlocks massive new possibilities for enterprises everywhere, and therefore for partners. For one thing, RPA technology now makes it possible to insert advanced AI skills in the form of machine learning models, natural language processing, or NLP, as they call it, character and image recognition, and more into RPA robots. So looking forward, I would say the robot and digital assistant will just become more and more and more and more intelligent. So as against, reading an expense receipt and putting it into your expense report for you, now with AI, it'll evolve into being able to, analyze all your receipts and giving you, all the AI you need on your expense report. That might be the greatest example if you're overspending, but you get the idea. Look, with AI skills into RPA, as you mentioned, it dramatically expands their ability to handle cognitive processes. And that requires things like understanding documents, visualizing screens, comprehending speech, carrying on conversations and chats. AI is also making it possible to scientifically discover a complete range of automation opportunities and build a robust, automation pipeline, if you like, which I think is really important. And robots can be configured, to apply machine learning models to automated decision-making processes and analysis, bringing machine intelligence deep into the day-to-day operations. And I think, I'll bring it back to what I said earlier about the fully automated enterprise. I think if I had a crystal ball, Julian, I'd love to be here in 5 years' time and just, talk about how many companies are now actually consider them fully automated. I heard a few years back a pretty scary statistic that, despite all the software built on the planet, 80% of business processes are still not automated. But I think we are moving into a different world. I think everybody sees it, even at the breadth arena. I think, even if we look at our partner profiles globally, it's changed completely, right? One day it was 100% VAR. Now it's, we've MSP, massive growth, CSP, massive growth. And I think we'll see, we'll see CSPs and MSPs lead the next wave of digital transformation, I think, with many, many different customer types.
So interesting. When AI starts to discover other ways you can automate automatically, and fill up your pipeline and says, here's the 20 other ways that you need to do to automate, then we know we're accelerating even faster than we think. For only our Canadian audience, we've got, if you're listening up, the government just announced a $4 billion fund, by the way. So if you're an MSP and you want to become a digital advisor, then you can go through a CERT program through the government. Not very difficult, by the way, but it gets you in the right direction. And then once you get the CERT stamped, you get $15,000 just to say hello, which is you're taking the course from UiPath, and then taking that could be a really nice plan. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Once you've got the CERT, you now have the ability to get additional funding to help your customers automate into the digital transformation of their business. And I believe it goes up to $100,000. So, there's an opportunity there that also governments are seeing, because I think the pandemic hit everybody a little bit blind. And now they're realizing that their entire economy is running in a digital first world. And therefore, all their businesses need to scale up in this world. So the race is on, right? I believe. I don't think it's going to stop. And I think the one with the most efficient automation is probably going to win. We'll see. But it's definitely a great opportunity to get in the ground floor. I'm just going to do a round table, and I'm going to end it with you, Eddie. I'll start with everybody giving a bit of a wrap up. We have about 4 minutes left. Randall, you want to kick it off about digital transformation and why MSPs should be bothering about this?
Yay for RPA is what I got to say. I'm all in. I think it's definitely something that an MSP has to get involved. This is the time. The wave has already started, so there's not much time left to catch up and to be one of those in front of the wave, not behind the wave. Really, it's important because as companies get more and more complicated and tasks get more and more complex, we have so much data out there. You need a robot to basically handle it all. Humans just don't have that kind of time anymore. We have other things we want to do. I like the what's on your page. It says we make software robots so people don't have to be robots. There you go. It all.
How do you read that? Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, excellent. Neil, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a classic example is that there are certain trends which happen. Cybersecurity is another one of those, where if you're an MSP and you don't grab onto that opportunity, then you're going to be dead in the water in 10 years' time. And I think this automation is even more key because of changing behavior patterns, changing work patterns. And things change incredibly quickly. So I'm going to examine an example from Microsoft's history. Many moons ago, I was in Europe helping launch what was called Business Performance Office Suite. And it was a complete nightmare. No one wanted it and no one would buy for it. Roll it forward 10 years, that's Office 365. Mm-hmm. So this change is not going to be stopped. And the people who are pushing that aren't an individual company like with Microsoft trying to do something unique. This is governments, this is society, this is global. So I would just say to people, I'm going to look at a website. It's easy to enroll on a course if you're curious. Upskill yourself, upskill your team, and who knows where it can lead you.
Take the course.
Eddie, how do you summarize all this?
Wow, I don't know, Julian. I think I'm actually going to even add a new term, and hopefully this will land with people. Obviously, look, coming from UiPath, I've talked about core RPA, the evolution to the fully automated enterprise, the opportunity in front of everybody. Super excited to be part of all of it. But we've been talking recently that the future is actually what we call semantic automation. And it plays into a little bit of what Randall and Jeff just said, where we talk about semantic automation, reducing the gap between how software robots currently operate and actually how humans operate. And the more we narrow that gap, the more value we bring our customers. Semantic software robots, would be able to simply observe an activity, begin to emulate it without step-by-step instructions like we have to give the bots today. They'll recognize the process, understand what data is required, know where to get this data, where to move it. We at least at UiPath believe we're well on our way to achieving this. So, but yeah, digital transformation, get involved. It's, if you're not, you're definitely missing out, and think fully automated enterprise and semantic automation.
Got it. Well, I'm going to wrap it up by saying, about a year ago, a couple of great authors asked me to write the last chapter or two of their book. I think it was called The Real Results in a Digital First Economy or something like that. And on my last chapter it was about digital transformation of business. And the last chapter was talking about the second to last chapter was cybersecurity, because you got to protect what you have. And the last chapter was how to get started. And that was when I started to talk about robotic process automation and RPA. and that's the way into digital transformation. Fast track to today, I think it's obvious that you need to be
You're
there
right
to
on.
make it work. So take care, everybody. Thank you all for joining us, and see you, everybody out there in Streamland. Thank you.